Hi, everybody. Hello, Karen from Rochester, Camellia, I think also from Rochester, Robert Moshe. Beautiful home, Robert Moshe. Gorgeous in Muncie, Lakewood. In Lakewood, Helen from
Well,
Rochester.
in
Rochester's have it.
actuality, this is my old Brooklyn house, and it's actually empty. All that furniture is photoshopped in by the real estate people.
That's so cute. That's hilarious. Well, it looks very nice. Lance, where do you hail from?
I'm from Hewlett on the South Shore.
You live on the South Shore. I
Five
know the name.
towns.
What?
Yes, like 5 towns.
Oh, 5 towns. That's a bit of a ways away. So basically, and then we have Debbie, who's also from Rochester. So we basically have only Marvin, who is local, cool. And it's really nice to be able to offer this class in a Zoom setting. So I'm very happy about that. We left off last time, Megillat Esther, the scroll, the book of Esther, chapter 4, and I marked for myself May 15th. So it was verse 16. And we may have gone over some of this, but I read more things. So I wanted to add to what we have learned about chapter 4. And remember, we're looking at it partly through a lot of it through the lens of anti-Semitism. That's true, which has just come up organically, but also just learning the Megillah somewhat in depth. And I wanted to go back to verse 16. Okay. Going to read the verse. So let's remember what's been going on over verse 15, actually. Remember what happened? Anybody want to recap what happened until now in chapter 4? Not a trick question. Oh, you need a Tanakh. You're okay? Okay. What happened? What are we up to in the story? Esther's married. Vashti's gone. Haman's angry at Mordechai. Put out an edict that all of the Jews will be fought against, hopefully killed, according to the non-Jews. And hello. And Esther, does Esther know anything about this? Anybody remember? Does Esther know about this? What do you think? She's in the women's quarters, the women's palace.
Well, no, she doesn't know because Mordecai.
We think she doesn't know. Right. Very good, Helen. We think she doesn't know. Why do we think she doesn't know? Because Mordecai has to tell her. He appears in sackcloth and ashes. He's not allowed to come into the palace grounds. And she sends a note saying, what are you doing? This is so upsetting. I don't understand why. Like, I can imagine her saying, did somebody die and I didn't know about it, right? Like, you can imagine her saying something like that. And although that's not in the text. And she sends her faithful servant. I think, did I tell you about this play? I told you about this play that they do, a musical in Gush Etzion, the women of Gush Etzion. There was an amazing staging of this whole scene where this one, it's so funny how they literally made like two sides of the set. And there was just a candle, because it was at night, according to what they interpreted. There was a candle that lit Esther and that lit up Mordechai. And the Hatach, her faithful messenger, was a she, because they're all she's, but that doesn't matter. So she goes and she gives a message to Mordechai, and then she goes and gives it back to Esther. And then she goes and gives it back to Mordechai, and then goes and gives it to, and by the fourth time, she's like dragging her feet. And it's very cute because it really showed you how there was a lot of back and forth. We don't always notice these things. So it was very interesting. And I never forgot that. The idea that there was a lot of back and forth, and because they don't have cell phones and they don't have computers, so they're sending it. They weren't using carrier pigeons, although they might have, but they're using it by actually literally sending a message with the person. So I kind of wonder if anybody was worried about security breaches and if somebody would hear about it. I just wonder, she must have really, really trusted this person who was in the women's palace. That's what I imagine. Because I think that Jews throughout the ages, we have always and until today feel that sense of needing watchfulness, that sense of somewhat fear that people will rise up against us. Something will look at us as Jews and find a reason to find fault with us, whether it makes sense or doesn't make sense, as we know. So I'm just imagining that she's sort of in a hostile environment. Remember, what did Mordechai tell her? Mordechai gave her a command when she married Ahasuerus. What did he say?
So don't say that you're Jewish.
Don't tell them you're Jewish. Don't say what you're from. Don't say what nation, which by the way, I wonder if that's where it came from, the midrash, the way that it said that she matzah bechol ro'eha. She found favor in everybody's eyes. And according to the midrash, remember what is a midrash? It's when you explain the text, but it's not written in the text. You fill in the space. That's my granddaughter Inbar, the one who just had a bat mitzvah. She told me that when she was 7 years ago, and it's still a great way to explain it. I know, she's really awesome. She really is awesome. So the midrash says that she was kind of nondescript, beautiful or alluring or something, but that everybody who saw her saw something of themselves in her and felt like maybe came from their nation. And I wonder that probably is hooked onto that she should not say Me'eza Am, right? That you shouldn't say what nation you're from. And yet she still found favor in people's eyes. So I imagine that's where the midrash gets that idea from, that everybody finds like I just, imagine like when you go somewhere and you want to sit next to someone, you probably like a woman might be more comfortable sitting next to a woman. Somebody you don't know, a man might feel more comfortable sitting next to a man, or somebody your age more, a teenager would be, pulled to a teenager, that kind of thing. So when you see something in the person, like I imagine we see somebody who's Jewish and we're traveling, we'll automatically feel connected and safer with them. So everybody somehow saw something in Esther that felt like this feels Hamish. This feels like, this feels good. This feels safe. She somehow looks like she comes from our nation. I don't know how that happened. I mean, that would be miraculous, but it's an interesting idea. Yes.
I feel it's Yad Hashem. I do. I really see Hashem in that.
Beautiful.
She felt that
Yeah.
safety and
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
We're going to be reading the psukim now, which in some ways are my favorite psukim. And the reason they are is because what I want you to notice in the psukim is how Esther is turning from a caterpillar into a butterfly. And I don't mean beauty-wise. I mean that a caterpillar in the sense of being, what would be a good word? Yeah.
Having autonomy and having, what's it called? Agency.
Agency, exactly. That's more what I meant. Marvin said I isolated, which is interesting. That's true also, that she felt very isolated. And I wonder if they all feed into themselves. Like she's no other Jewish people with her, it sounds like. There's even a medrash that says she has 7 maidens and she used them all on a certain day of the week. So she always knew when Shabbat was. It's a big deal. Shabbat keeps us, right? There's a reason she would do that. So yes, I believe she felt isolated. What I was thinking was that she's like emerging as a butterfly in the sense that she's becoming the queen, that she didn't show that before. And beforehand, she was more of not a pawn exactly. I don't think pawn would be the right word, but she did the bidding of Mordechai. She did the bidding of Achashverosh. She didn't take agency. She didn't take command. And these are somewhat I love this idea because I just want everybody to think for themselves. When is it that you took agency? When is it that you were in a situation where you felt that even if you weren't given agency? I find that a really fascinating question. And it could be anything from cleaning up a mess that you saw, to helping save someone's life. Like it could be from one to the other, all the way to another extreme. But doing something where you had to take authority, but you were not given authority. Taking command without authority. Would that be the right word? Yeah, maybe command. Anybody, and I want you to keep notice of that. So if anybody here has want to share when in your life you found yourself taking command or doing something, but you weren't given authority, but you took authority. You have something to say, Marvin? No. Think about it. Not yet. I have to push him to say something. And he has so many stories. It's amazing. Got to get him one-on-one. I want to give you an example. Okay, it is about me. I'm sorry. Those are the examples that I know. And I wanted to show you how little this example is by giving about myself. But it's one of my favorite stories about something that happened with me. And maybe I shared it where I went to a congregant who was sitting Shiva. Did I tell the story? No. So I went to a congregant. They're young. They're in their 30s. They have young kids. And I came in to be Menachem Avel, right, to pay a Shiva call. And I walk into the kitchen area and it's like it's small, New York apartments. It's just overflowing with food, pizza boxes, this like good food, cupcake, cakes, so much stuff, just totally overflowing. And I said and the husband was sitting with the kids on his lap. The wife she was sitting by herself, Shiva. Her family was not sitting with her at that moment. She went afterwards to the family. And she's like holding court in the sense of, she's the only one sitting Shiva. So she's nonstop sitting. And I went over to him and I said, would it be, and I didn't know them that well at that point, but I said, would it be okay with you if I would like take over in the kitchen and clean up and he's like, oh my God, please, please, I would be so grateful. And I wasn't like being a rabbi at that point. I was being a mom, an aunt, somebody who's had a lot of experience in the kitchen and seeing a need. Nobody said to me, could you clean up the kitchen, right? But I asked, but I took authority in the moment, even though, as if out of nowhere. And I spent a long time helping them organize. They just kept getting so much food from people. And she said to me after, she says, look, we both share all the work in our home, but we have very clear divisions. And I am the kitchen person. It's just not his thing, right? That's just what I do. He does other things and he's great, but all of a sudden to have to deal with the whole thing. So and at the end, I did some pastoral and I did the Nichum Avelim. So I did that, but most of the time I was doing something else. I was taking authority because, I like that story because first of all, it made me feel good that I could really help them. They needed a person to clean up the kitchen way more than needed a rabbi at that point. And I like that, but I think I wanted to show you that sometimes we can do good in the world, even if it's something very small. It can be just helping somebody out or seeing a situation. But I love this idea that we do something without being given authority, because Esther was in an unimaginable position. She has no power. I just want to remind you, she has no power. And I feel like as a woman, she has no power. As a Jewish person, she has no power. She literally has been married to the king just to be a trophy wife, basically, as far as I can tell. And here she's being put in a position where Mordechai is telling her, you might be the only person, or you might be the right person to save the Jews. So I just want to highlight like what an unconscionable position she's in. And yet, and I agree, Karen's saying, I see Yad Hashem everywhere, but it's not enough to have the hand of God, because the miracles are not like splitting the sea. It's not those kind of miracles that we're seeing. The miracles feel a little bit different. They feel more, hidden miracles. So she still had to take agency. Okay, so anybody want to comment?
I think she didn't have official agency. But she
Right.
had the agency. There are things that she had that you can see. Her appeal, she was.
That's what she used.
Yeah, it meant something.
Yes.
The fact that people saw themselves in her, I was thinking when one of my grandchildren is sort of dark skinned, looks, you can't tell who he is, but there's an appeal that he has. And his mother once said, oh, he should be in advertising because he looks sort of like everybody.
Yeah. Oh,
There's something
nice.
about it. So there's
Beautiful.
a power in that. It's not an official power. You don't have, your job.
Yeah, but
is
Debbie,
to
what
do
you're
it.
saying is, what did she capitalize on?
Right. Well, she
So
had
correct, 100%. She used what she had available to her. But it's not like she was told, you're the queen, like in England, the Queen of England, whatever, if you consider it power or not. But the Queen of England has some sort of power that's actually given to her, like she's authorized. Could be the queen.
I agree with you. But that was the beauty of Esther, is that she used the skills that she had.
Right.
Just to clarify, when I said Yad Hashem, I certainly did not mean that it's Hashem who's doing everything. Hashem will do for us, but we have to kind of meet Hashem halfway.
Yeah.
Hashem, I feel that. We can't sit around and say, Hashem Ya'azor. Hashem Ya'azor, if we act on things.
Is that a core
So-
belief of yours, Karen? That's what it feels.
Yes, yes.
Other people think the same, similar? Not everybody might, but, and that's okay too. You do, Helen, also?
Yeah, I agree with Karen.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Anybody else want to suggest? Somebody, we just had Maharat speak, because it was the Maharat graduation. And one woman from Israel, who's hopefully going to speak on Shabbat, said something really powerful. Her husband was in Gaza, and there's just a lot, she's young kids. And she said that she never had a Pesach, a Leil HaSeder like this year. She said she's reading about the miracles that God brought. And she's like saying, God, she said, I spoke to Hashem and I said, you want your name to be revealed and glorified? You can do it. You want to create a whirlwind, you want to create whatever it is, you could help us out. We're trying. Where's your miracle to help us? It was so powerful when she said that. It was just really shook me. Like, she really was speaking to God and kind of holding God to task for not doing more, which I thought was really interesting. Yes, Lance.
My grandson, Evan, is the president of Wolverines for Israel at the University of Michigan. That's the Jewish student organization there, Jewish student community. And right now, he is living in Tel Aviv. He is working for a company called CompuGen. He's working, I mean, he's getting paid for this, but he has no authority to go there.
What do you mean authority to go to
In
Israel?
other words, he's not with a group. He's not sent there by the University of Michigan. No one sent him there. He just decided on his own that he had to contribute to Israel.
Nice. Got it. So it's not so much authority, but maybe he had no mission, like he wasn't sent on a mission.
Exactly.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. So in 16 and 17, 15 and 16. So 15 says that, remember we said the back and forth, imagining the messenger going back and forth and back and forth. And at this point, Esther is convinced. She understands, like she makes a switch. She really makes a switch. She says to Mordechai, Lech kinos, go and gather, kol hayudim namtzim b'Shushan, all of the Jews who are in Shushan. Now, I don't know, remember we spoke about the city Shushan, the small S, and Shushan Habira, the capital S. I don't know which one she meant. If she meant like go back to where the Jews live in the city, in the suburbs, in the city of Shushan. V'tzumu alai, and fast for me. V'al tochlu v'al tishtu, don't eat and don't drink, which is interesting because obviously latzum means don't eat and don't drink. Shloshet yamim, 3 days, laila vayom, night and day. That's 3 days straight. Was that 72 hours? I think it's 72 hours. Gam ani v'na'arotai yatzum, I and my girls, my maidservants will. And then, remember, because she had said, if I come into the courtroom, remember that part? And if Achashverosh doesn't raise his scepter, then they just ram through with their spears and I'm dead, which is scary, right? But she was willing to rise above her fear. Right? If I will go there, lo kadat means not according, he didn't ask me to come. And if I'm lost, I am lost. Like she is willing to sacrifice herself, which makes me think over and over again of the soldiers willing to put themselves in harm's way in order, when they know for a fact that some of them are going to be killed and or injured, which some of them are really severely injured. So I have a few questions on this pasuk. First of all, why does she say lech knos? Go and gather, go and assemble. Why was that important to first assemble them? What does that mean, knos, gather them together? Like, does he have to gather them or just pass the word? So there's a beautiful midrash. It might actually be Sefer HaSichot is the book of Siach, is like lectures or drashot. It might be the Lubavitcher Rebbe, I don't know. He says something very beautiful. Remember that Haman, I mean, here there's all about the Yetzer Hara and all that, but what did Haman say about the Jewish people? That they are mefuzar u'meforad. They are separated and divided in the 100. Remember those words? Mefuzar u'meforad ben kol amim. They're separated, scattered, and divided among all the nations. So on one hand, remember we said you could learn a few things from that. Is it the fact that they're everywhere? And that means that all 127 provinces, people are going to have to rise up against them. Could it mean that they still keep their language, even though they're scattered, like they don't melt in, they still keep themselves separate? So here, the way this is counteracting that they're scattered in unity. They don't feel unified, which I thought was beautiful. So you must gather them together. All the Jews present in Shushan, it is incumbent that unity and brotherly love and sisterly love prevail among them. Secondly, if everyone fasts and does tshuva, then I will undoubtedly succeed in my mission. So this is a tried and true, I can't say, but this is certainly something that we've had from our history, that doing tshuva, I mean, that's what we believe in, and fasting showing that supplication to God by giving up eating. Oh, obviously only if you can, if you're healthy enough to do it. So I love that idea that knos, to bring to a kenes, by the way, is a convention. That's what it is in modern day Hebrew. But then there's a question, why, Debbie?
I was just going to say, I mean, it is a thing that we do. We rally together. We march together. I mean, when we have a problem, we get together, because that gives us chizuk. That gives us the strength to go on. And it isn't, like, oh, it's just me in my house. I'm going to, I'm going to fast in my house. I'm going to
right. That feels like
pray in my house.
I totally agree with Debbie. I was sent a video this morning of yeshiva boys at the Kotel because of Yom Yerushalayim. There must have been thousands there, and they were all singing together. And the force and the inspiration
feels very different from the
Yes.
pro-Palestinian, which are just shouting and hate. And
right. But the strength came from the group.
Right. The strength came from the group. So there's an interesting question of why is it kenes, likanes, and not lahakel, hakel. Kihilah's community also. What's the difference between the two? Is an interesting question. So here there's a midrash. You take what you need to do that. So it's so interesting. I actually copied the Hebrew. So the midrash says, the Gemara says, that's a midrash, that the answer is, one second, Yitzchak said, Hakol kol Yaakov v'hayadayim yedei Esav. The voice is the voice of, remember that? When he came in and he stole that, right? Meaning that Yaakov's, so this is midrashic. Remember, every time it's midrashic, it takes it out of context. So what it says, the midrash, is that Yaakov's power is in his voice in prayer. Hakol kol Yaakov. The Yaakov's power is in prayer, whereas Esav's power is in his murderous hands. And the midrash continues, I copied it. Hakol kol Yaakov, bizman shekolo shel Yaakov matzui bebatei knisiyot. When the voice of Yaakov is found in the shoals, ein hayadayim yedei Esav, then the hands of Esav cannot be those murderous hands. Ve'im lav, and if they're not found, if you don't hear the voice of Jacob, hayadayim, then hayadayim will be yedei Esav. So the midrash adds a few words. Hakol kol Yaakov, if it's in the synagogue, if you hear that, if God hears that the Jews are gathering together to pray and gathering together, then the hands of Esav will not have the same power. The word knos, so listen to this, the gematria of knos, remember the gematria, numerical value of letters, is the same as kol, voice, same. Esther was telling Mordechai, gather together all the Jews in prayer and Haman's plans for our annihilation will be nullified. I think in general, there's a lot of play on words in Hebrew. When do you use Eidah, which is congregation? When do you use Kehillah, which is community? So it's just interesting, the different ways that these words, knos, kenes, hakel, they're used in different situations. Okay. That is not interesting. Okay. The next question is Vitsumu alai. So it's interesting. You should fast for me for 3 days. First of all, do we know when these 3 days are? I just want to put it in the calendar now. Remember when the edicts came out? How many months before Purim? Who remembers? 9 is close. Keep going. It actually was 11 months before. No, you were very close. It's that odd number. It was Pesach. Pesach is when they put, it's not like everything happened one day after another. That Pesach, that's when it happened. And they actually chose to fast on Pesach immediately. And I guess that's also because like that takes precedence when there's fear of death. Because you're not supposed to fast on Pesach. It's a chag. You have to eat the Korban Pesach or the matzah at least, the maror, you have mitzvot of eating. And okay, that's another one. But the couriers went out with Haman's letters on the 13th of Nisan. That's 2 days before Pesach. It's the day before Erev Pesach. Mordechai declared a fast on the 14th, 15th, and 16th, which is like crazy. On the 14th on Erev Pesach, when you're supposed to eat, well, not chametz and not matzah, and the 15th and the 16th, with especially if you're not in Israel, you have 2 days of Yantiv. So it's the night of the Seder, like they're completely taking away the Seder. And so that's just to put it in context, 3 days, Laila Vayom, 3. Okay, we said that. And even so, then everybody with me on this? I'm just going through the pasuk, seeing what we can learn from here. It shows how much in danger they were and what you have to do in times of danger. Now, I and my na'arot, my maidservants, atzum, meaning I will fast, where she should have said natsum, we will fast. But that's like a small grammatical thing. She can't force them to fast. So it's just interesting to notice that she says that. And then that's basically the end of, that's the end of the explanation of this pasuk that I have. Just see, was anything else? Anybody else want to say something?
I just
Debbie.
I just always like when abadati. I just always felt that they was so dramatic.
Yeah.
So like, right up and very, when you look at this essay, if you were going to look at it as a play, it's really builds up the tension and the.
Yes. That's so interesting. Somebody else wrote that the tension is really being built here with these messages back and forth, right? It's like, you know what it's like? It's like the Megillah was happily moving along, telling you what's going on. And then it zooms in on this moment and spends so much time telling you what happened. And you can hear the suspenseful music in the background. Like what's going to happen when Esther goes in? Will she be rammed with the spears? Well, then you wouldn't have chapters 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but okay. But it's still a suspenseful. Yes, I think that's very good. You feel like it's dramatic, but that's exactly what she said. If you come into the courtroom and the king doesn't go like this, that's it. You're dead.
And Mordechai is totally silent. And I love that last pasuk of the Perek.
Yeah.
Which says he did exactly what Esther told him.
Love it. Let's read it by Yavor Mordechai. So this is interesting. 1 second, Debbie.
I love Esther.
Yeah, everything that Esther said. Did you want to add to that?
No, I think the point that you made, I've always thought is that there is a switch in this play on who's the boss, who's making the decisions, who's taking the action, and who's going to bear. I mean, everybody, all the Jews would bear the repercussions if it didn't work, but who is putting themselves on the line? And all of a sudden she becomes a strategic, thinker. And obviously she was always that way, but she had to emerge, Yeah,
exactly. So there's a question. Did you have something there? Vaya'avor, it's an interesting word. What does that word mean? Vaya'avor Mordechai.
Passed, right? Mordechai passed.
Like he passed or passed over, or it says here, Mordechai went about, like avar, he went from one place to the next. So it's just an interesting choice of words. So the Midrash, of course, picks up on it and says, so one way of understanding it could be, remember that he went from the city of Shushan to Shushan. I mean, it really fits so nicely. That's why I keep bringing it up, that he literally crossed over, right, from the capital city back to where the Jews were. But there's another explanation. What is an avera? An avera? Transgression. Right, to do it. It's the same word. To transgress, an avera is also vayavor. What did Mordechai transgress here? He didn't transgress what Esther said. That was not a transgression. He did exactly what she said, as you pointed out. What was his transgression? We mentioned it before.
Fasted on Pesach.
To do it on Pesach. So the Midrash says, oh, Vayavor Mordechai. Mordechai decided that, or agreed to it. Like he could have said to Esther, let's just wait till Chol HaMoed, right? He could have said that, I'll do it, but we're not going to start. No, Vayavor. So here's an interesting thing. Mordechai was perplexed that his prayers were not penetrating the heavens. He concluded he was experiencing the same phenomenon which the prophet Yirmiyahu says in Echa, though I would cry out and plead, God shut out my prayer. Oh yeah, I'm going to say that too, right? I wrote myself another note. Therefore, listen to how interesting, right? This is strategy, but this is now spiritual strategy, okay? He wisely decided to commit a serious Aveira, to fast on Pesach. The Satan would relish this and quickly run to the heavenly tribunal to prosecute him. Then when he would be investigated, the entire picture will come to light. It will be recognized that his transgression was actually lishma, with good intent, and the heavenly intervention he sought to arouse would be forthcoming. Now, this is like going into spiritual, that I don't know if we believe this or don't. Is there really a court? I mean, that's all of our stories talk about that. But what I do love is, first of all, that it picks up on the word vayavor. So that's one thing that I like very much. And the other one is, I think for me, these midrashim show us that, to me, I don't think Ted would agree with me, but that's okay. Is that it just brings so much more spirituality into the Megillah that I don't think I was so aware of before. For me, just imagining that Mordechai was a truly religious Jew. He really believed in God. He believed in Yad Hashem. And he absolutely, do people know what Yad Hashem is? The hand of God. Believed in Yad Hashem. And I think he believed, as Karen and Helen said, that we have to, meet halfway, that we have to do our due diligence, and we have to try, we have to do everything we can, whether it's keeping quiet in some situations or speaking out in other situations. But it just feels like, whether it was true or not, that's the reason he decided, I kind of get it. Whether I believe that he was trying to awaken the Satan to run to God and, start saying something against the Jews, that they did it. But this idea that this is a time that we actually need to fast, even though we are told not to fast. And it reminded me of a story on Pesach in the Shoah. I think it was the Piazetzner Rebbe, where they didn't have matzah, obviously, and not in the ghetto specific, I'm talking about in the concentration camps. And he said, it is a mitzvah for you to take a piece of bread and say alachilat matzah. You will fulfill the mitzvah of matzah by eating chametz. The fact that you are willing to risk your life, by even saying a blessing in the concentration camp, I can't even imagine what that must have been like. I don't imagine like the hostages. I don't know what's with them, obviously. But so I think that for me, the idea that, we often read that in situations that are in danger of life, that, all of the Torah basically just put it aside. And that's exactly what he did. Whether it was to awaken the heavenly tribunal, that I can't answer. So
that's what I was going to ask you. Is this an example of pikuach nefesh?
Exactly. Pikuach nefesh would be the correct term here. He definitely saw it as and pikuach nefesh doche hakol. Everything.
You're Shabbat and holidays.
Shabbat, Yom Kippur, doesn't matter what it is. Exactly. Very good. Yep. Pikuach nefesh, saving life. So here the Zohar, not my usual book, not my usual go-to, but the Zohar says that Hashem looks for, this is kind of beautiful. Hashem looks forward with anticipation to the Yom Tov of Pesach. I love that idea that, we love Pesach. Oh, I don't have my little 243. It came off. Okay. Imagine it's there. We love Pesach. We love Leila Seder, but this is saying Hashem loves it. Hashem loves it when we get together and we do all those family things. And that the Shekhinah of God, God's presence, personally comes to witness the Jews sitting at the Seder table and expressing our love for God. Esther planned that which also shows that this Midrash portrays Esther as a very believing Jew as well, that because of the vacuum they would create by foregoing proper observance of the Seder night, God would realize what God would be missing by permitting chas v'chalila, the annihilation of the Jewish people. It's like a way to, how do we awaken God's rachamim? I mean, that's what Meital, Rabbah, Rabbanit, I don't know what she's calling herself. Let's say Rabbanit, Meital Gordon, who was one of the graduates, that's what she said she thought of on Seder night. How do I awaken God's mercy? What do I have to say? What do we have to do? So God will come and save. Just feels very powerful because when I'm reading this, I'm like thinking, you know, for me, it really overlays one over the other. I think I'm done with Perek Dalet. I mean, I'm happy to start Perek Hey. I'm just saying I don't have anything else to add. That's everything that I collected on Perek Dalet. And now comes the actual transition, my favorite 3 words in the whole Megillah. Everybody ready to start Perek Hey, 5th chapter? You realize we're not going to finish this year, but we will, as I think I mentioned that I'm going to, in June, however much I can, I'm going to continue teaching. Next week is Shavuot. Can't teach next week. And then we'll finish in June, hopefully, and then we'll take a break July, August. And in September, I'm doing a mini series on Jonah, the book of Jonah, there's 4 chapters. I want to have 4 classes, and I'm very excited to give that as a mini series according to 929. Whoever doesn't know what 929 is, look it up. It's awesome. 929 chapters in the Tanakh, fantastic commentaries. I'm going to be teaching that, and that's really, I'm so excited. And
I'm
then
sorry, I have to leave. I have to leave. Goodbye. I'm sorry.
Just at the end of chapter 4. And then we'll come back to finish Esther after the Chagim. It might bring us right up to Purim. Who knows? And then we'll pick something else. Okay. Vayhi bayom hashlishi. It is on the 3rd day. So it could be on the end of the 3rd day. If it's the 3rd day, what is it? We said 13th was the edict. The 14th Erev Pesach is day 1 of the fast. The 15th is Pesach, the first day. The 16th is actually the 2nd day of Yontif outside of Israel. Vayhi bayom hashlishi. It's in the 3rd day. Batilbash Esther Malchut. Now, does anybody here know Hebrew? Can translate those 3 words for me? Batilbash. You can unmute, guys. It's okay. And she put on, or she dressed, or donned. I think you would say not D-A-W-N, but D-O-N-N-E-D. Esther. Malchut. What is the word malchut?
Royalty.
Kingship or royalty. Does it say she put on royal garments? No. I mean, you could say she did, because batilbash means she dressed herself.
Mm-hmm.
But it should have said batilbash Esther bigdei malchut.
Mm-hmm.
It should have said that she wore queen or royal attire, royal robes, royal dressing gown. And it's missing the word bigdei. And that's why these 3 are so beautiful, because I want to tell you what I imagine. Anybody here ever see Cinderella? Whether it's the Rodgers and Hammerstein or the Walt Disney one. There's a moment when the fairy godmother dresses Cinderella and she kind of twirls around in this swirling kind of magic around her. And that's what this makes me think of. That it's almost as if she lifted her hands and those little twittering birds, dropped back clothes of royalty on her. But she became royal. She donned royalty outside and inside. So imagine for yourself that as she's putting the clothing on, as she's putting on her most beautiful clothing, really to look, radiant and raiments of, she's also internalizing what it means to be royal. And she's turning from a person who was so quiet and subservient into a queen. Batilbash Esther Malchut. And I want to tell you, Mordechai and Esther wrote the Megillah. It feels so much like it was so Yad Hashem was in here, because the words, I know that these words were written by people as opposed to the Torah, but it has so much power in the words. And when you really take the words apart and you try to zoom in on them, there's so much you can learn. So as I said, this is my 3 favorite words as a phrase. I have other favorite words because I love so much of it. And even like what Debbie said, you sing that in Eicha Trop. that it's so dramatic. And if I'm lost, but I'm also willing to sacrifice myself for the greater cause, which brings me to tears because so many people are willing to do that. So it's on the third day. It might be on the third day of Yantif. It might be right after, not clear. But and she donned royalty, but ta'amod. So here's another beautiful midrash. She stood, she's in the inner court at the entrance, like she's across from the king. He can see her. He's sitting on his throne, in the royal palace. So there, it's set up actually, it's really visual. She's across from the king is across from her. Everybody got the scene? There's an interesting point here. Vata'amod. It's very powerful to me that she stood. I don't think it's an extraneous word because she had to stand because she's not allowed to step in. And as a matter of fact, we're already imagining what's happening at this moment when she's standing in the entranceway. Right? There are guards with spears. They're already possibly lifting them in order, even though that seems so weird because she's the queen, but right. But there's another, there's a Vata'amod. I read a midrash about it that I thought was really beautiful. One second, the Arizal, just give me a moment. You know who the Ari was? The Arizal, he was one of the first mystics, I think, and he was, he wrote, I don't think he was credited with writing the Zohar, could be, but he was from Tzfat, and Arizal just has, tremendous teaching from him and a lot of spirituality and Kabbalah. And he's always called the Arizal. Zal is Zichrono Livracha, but he's always called that, the Arizal. It's like it's one word. And he says like this, just hold on one second. He says, Hashem appears in different forms, that at Kriyat Yam Suf, at the crossing of the sea, God appeared as a powerful warrior. At the giving of the Torah, God appeared in the form of a merciful sage. This is the Yalkut Shimoni says this. And according to the Arizal, the different forms of revelation depend on what mission needs to be accomplished. So it makes sense maybe that Hashem needed to be a powerful warrior here, and at Mount Sinai, the merciful sage. Just 1 minute. When Esther was standing, what the Midrash imagines, which I love, is that she was praying to God. But ta'amod, and I just brings me to tears that she's standing there and she's praying to God for her life and for the life of her people and saying, please let my mission be successful. She may not even have had a plan at this point. We don't know that she has a plan. We're surprised ourselves when the king asks her and she says, I'm going to make a little party for just the three of us. And this is the prayer that she says. The Jewish people are facing an extremely difficult time. We're being threatened with annihilation. It feels like this is our prayer today. You, God, are the all-powerful. You control nature and are above it. We need your miraculous help. May it be your will to perform a miracle on our behalf, which is within the laws of nature. As you have done at Sinai, or one which surpasses nature, as you have done at the sea, whatever it may be, please do not forsake me. And this just feels like a really powerful tefillah that we're all davening today, whether it's the anti-Semitism. I heard now that pro-Palestinian groups are trying to close down all the Hillels. I mean, it's just like, it's almost like it's hard to even imagine it. And yet I also read in Forward or in Times somewhere that the majority of America supports Israel. And but you don't hear from them. We're hearing from the people who have so much hatred and gathering people up under their wings, sadly, different wings. Okay.
Right. Where did that feel
emotional for me?
I know.
This is from Ya'arot Vash. So I got this book. My sister Sarah is also teaching a similar course. She recommended this book. So this book is based a lot on Chabad teaching, and it has a lot of, things that feel, but he quotes a lot of midrash. He's he's Rabbi Moshe Bogomilsky. She gave me a few different, I took different ones as well. I have other books that I take from him, but he quotes he really collected a ton of midrashim. It's just very beautiful to go through. Some of them resonate with me more than others. I thought this was it also, I feel like the ones that really make sense to me, Vata'amod And let's just imagine that really powerful, powerful scene. She doesn't know if she's going to be killed right now. She doesn't know if whatever she does is going to, be successful or not. And she's willing to take that chance. Okay. And what happens feels a little bit miraculous because the king hadn't called her for 30 days. Let's see what's here. Okay. So he lifts his eyes. He notices that she's there, standing in the courtyard. She found favor in his eyes. He reached out to her the scepter. So there's a midrash that says that he flipped it. I don't know exactly what that means, but she actually came close and touched where it was touching his hand. I wonder if the human touch sometimes can, really endear herself to him. There's something very powerful showing I'm your wife. She's really using everything she can to create that connection with him. All right, 1 second. Let me just take a moment to see what I had here. I think I might save this for next time. I'm just going to give the background. Anybody have something to say? No. Okay. Because it's interesting that she touched the head of the scepter. Like, why was that important? Again, these midrashim are based on. The king says to her, what's going on? How are you? What do you want? You'll get up until half of my kingdom. Everybody says that's not true. He was not going to give her half of his kingdom, but it's just a phrase. But it's beautiful. It's poetic. It's beautiful. I mean, I don't know if everybody says that, but most people say that. But Tomer Esther, and she says to him, Ima lamelech tov, she's speaking very sweetly here. Yavo hamelech vehaman hayom. Now, whoever has the Hebrew, if you look at Yavo hamelech vehaman hayom, the first letters are Yud, then a Hey, then a Vav, then a Hey, God's name. The 4 letters of God's name. And in a way, I understand why the Midrash points this out. Remember, Hashem's name is not in the Megillah anywhere overtly. So it's interesting that the king and Haman will come today, to the feast. Why would the Midrash Dafka point out the Yud, Hey, Vav, and Hey, or Yud, K, Vav, K, that is hidden within Yavo, Hamelech, veHaman, Hayom? The king and Haman will come today to the Mishteh, to the feast, Asher Sitilo, which I have prepared for him. Any thoughts? I mean, I wonder if it's the only place that has it, but anyway.
Again, I just feel it's Yad Hashem. Esther is asking the king and kind of telling him, please, I'm making a party and you and Haman are coming.
It feels like this is the plan, right? So this is the plan.
And
whether it came to her in the moment, this is where I need Hashem. Hashem, this is where I need you.
Right.
I'm making a plan. Come with me to the party. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Like Esther is saying to Hashem, come with me, please, to the party also. I need your help. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need him to say yes.
Yes. Oh, the king. Oh, yes. Very good. First of all, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
You're right. It was not obvious that he would say yes. That why? If she had said, come you and me, obviously he would say yes. Why would he agree with Haman? I could imagine this roused some sort of, worry. By the way, it's interesting. I just want you to notice that the same pasuk says, the king and Haman will come today to the feast which I made for him, not for them, not for you in plural. She's very wise. She's very strategic. That should I say sitilo, because she's saying, I made it for the king. I'm inviting Haman as well.
Mm-hmm.
I find that, it's just interesting to notice that as well. Okay. I just want to give you the answer that the Ibn Ezra says, and again, it's in this book. I found that in this book. The Megillah was written by Mordechai and sent to, oh, sorry. The question here is, why was Hashem's name not overt? Why is it only hidden? It contained it was entered in, it contained a piece of current history which was of interest to everyone in all 127 provinces, therefore entered in the book of Chronicles. Remember that? The book of Chronicles of Malchei Madai Uparas, of the kings of Madai, Media, it says, and Persia. Out of concern that when it would be translated, the writers would exchange the name of Hashem with one of their God's names. That's why Mordechai and Esther, doesn't say Esther here, but I would add Esther, omitted God's name. And I'd never heard that answer before. That just felt so creative. The Ibn Ezra gave a very practical answer to that. Much more practical. Ibn Ezra, by the way, is very practical. He's very terse, and usually, well, there's Ibn Ezra HaKatzar, the short and the long. He usually uses grammar, and he was very smart, very, very learned. I thought that was just brilliant. That just makes so much sense. Either that God's name would be desecrated, that's how I would imagine, but also that they would just replace God with their own God. That makes so much sense. I was really impressed with that. And I love that I don't know, Karen, I guess you thought the same.
No, I love it, but I also
piece.
have to go. So I just want to say Chag Shavuot Sameach.
And Chag Sameach for today, Yom Yerushalayim.
Yes, yes.
I think we're going to stop here anyway and just say goodbye to everybody. And in 2 weeks, reconvene at this, right here at this junction, which is the turning point in some ways. And we'll pick up in 2 weeks. I think what I'm going to try to do is finish Perek Hey, chapter 5. I think that would be good if we had a stopping point of all of chapter 5 by the end of June, and we would do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 next year. If you think you can remember.
What's the name of that book that you keep on putting up?
Show you. I have a few, but this is one of them. V'dibarta bam. V'dibarta bam. Vedibarta bam. It's from Shema.
Right.
So that I also was looking at. Bam. I'm sorry, what?
Who's the author?
Rabbi Moshe Bogomilsky. And then I also like this one, The Book of Esther by Benjamin J. Siegel. Another one I really like. And I've been using a graphic novel. And then Rabbi David Foreman, he has a whole different,
Right.
And I use others, but these are the main ones. And I use a recording and I learn and I listen. And all right, my friends, thank you so much. So Chag Sameach today for Yom Yerushalayim, Chag Sameach for Shavuot. We will hopefully Bezrat Hashem meet again in 2 weeks and have 2 more sessions or so, I hope, before we break for the summer. Love to all. Bye-bye.